the follow-up video on clarifying stocks. So last time I clarified the stock, I just used onions and egg white, and I was curious to see if by traditionally you add meat, if by adding meat instead of just the onions and the egg white, we will get a clearer stock. So it's kind of an experiment. I made some stock the other day. It's a little bit cloudy. It was the second boiling of the chicken stock. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I do it anyway. So it's a little bit cloudy, and there's some other bits of stock which weren't too particularly clear. So I just want to see if we can clear them up, make them crystal clear. And will the meat make a difference, or can you get away with just using the onion? So there's about 3 litres. So for every litre of stock, you need 2 egg whites, and you need about 250 grams worth of solid material. So last time it was onions, this time it's going to be chicken, minced chicken and onion. So it's a half ratio. So it's so there's 3 litres, so it would be 750 grams. To make it easy, I've used 400 grams of eggs, 400 grams of minced chicken and 400 grams of onions, and into that I'm going to use 6 egg whites. So I'm not going to waste the yolks, but I want to see. So there's the chicken, there's the onion. I have chopped the onion and I have cooked it because I want to get rid of that raw onion flavour from it. We don't want that. And also I'm just slightly melting the stock. It was a little bit gelatinous, so it's jellified overnight. So we just need to melt that so it's a liquid. Not heating it too much, just melting it. So egg whites in here, and then we'll give it a pulse together with the hand blender. Don't want any egg white, any yolk in there. We just want the whites. Don't know what I'm going to do with the yolks. I'll probably just eat them for my breakfast. I was thinking about making custard, but no, I don't think so. Or I could make a creme brulee, but I can't be bothered with the faff of making creme brulees. I've got enough to do, and that can be another video at some stage. How I make my creme brulees. Although I don't really want to tell people, because I think needs to be some secrets in life, and how I make my creme brulees needs to stay a secret. Because if someone else can make them, then I can't charge what I want for them. But anyway, so that's that. Just faff in and give myself a little bit of time while the stock melts. And then what we'll do, I'll do it in real time. So we'll bring the stock up to the boil with the raft of chicken, onion and egg white. And then what we'll do, it'll form a raft to the top of the stock, and it'll clarify out any impurities and make it nice and crystal clear. Hopefully. So that's that. Those are those. Quick wash of the hands. Those out the way. Hand blender at the ready, so might make a bit of a noise. Oh, I've minced the chicken as well. This hand blender would not mix up the chicken. Do that out of the way. Always with something that's plastic, don't bang it on the metal, it's going to crack the plastic. I always bang it on my hand, just the tough part of your hand, and then you can get as much of that off as possible, and then you're not going to crack the plastic either. So that's there, and then here's the tricky moment. So all that's melted, so that's fine. So we'll take that out of there. So we then pour. This is going to form. This is the mixture that's going to form the raft, which is going to clarify the stock. So as you can see, the stock's kind of quite murky. So what's going to happen is we're going to pour this into here. It's going to go down to the bottom. It's going to start collecting sediment and impurities on the bottom of the pan. It's going to raise to the top of the pan as it heats up. The stock heats up, and that heats up, and it's going to collect those impurities. And then we're going to bring it up to a slow boil, and then as that happens, it's going to take out all the impurities in the stock, the globules of fat, the little bits of sediment, the impurities. It's going to filter those out, and we're going to be left with a nice clear stock, and all those impurities will be trapped in the raft. So we can't boil it, we just need to slowly simmer it. If we boil it, those impurities and the raft are going to boil back into the stock and then make the stock cloudy, which kind of nullifies what we've just done. So raft dropped into the pan like that. Get as much out of it as possible because we don't like waste, and then we'll give it a whisk, and then we'll get a better temperature underneath it, the heat underneath it, like that. That out of the way. So give it a whisk so it mixes in with the stock and starts collecting all those bits of sediment, and then bring the temperature up like that. Making a mess of my whisk. Get those bits off there, and I think we'll do it. I'll put some timestamps in. See if we've got enough memory on the phone. But I'll put some timestamps in. You don't need to see stock boiling. It's not the most interesting thing. It's made a right mess of my whisk. I'll sort that out later. Yeah, so I'll put some timestamps in so you can fast forward to the bit where it's not a fast forward, but you can click to the bit where the raft has formed, and that'll be the next kind of stage. But just need to show that you do it slowly. It's just all the same use from the chicken, is that? I'll do something with that. That's as much as I can be bothered getting off the whisk. We'll sort that out in a bit. So, need to wash my hands again. Right, so I'm not going to faff around with the whisk off camera. It's going to annoy me. So, not a rapid boil. We're going to slowly bring this up to the boil. What will happen is the egg will cook, the chicken will cook, and it will form a raft to the top, and you'll be able to see it, and then it'll clarify the stock underneath. Not a rapid boil. Sorry, I've got I'm hiccuping. So, not a rapid boil because we don't want it to boil back into things, so slowly up to the boil, and then we need to stop it before it does boil because we don't want to break that raft. You'll see on the video, if you're interested, you'll see the process that it's going to go through. Anyway, so that's that for the moment. We'll see how we go. We'll just let it. I don't think I've got anything much to say. I might pause the video and then we'll come back when it's formed the raft. Some things are just not very interesting. And there's I'm sure I did that on the other video. How's it feel? No, it's okay. I'll just leave the camera rolling and do a bit of washing up and stuff. Make a bit of a banging sound and keep an eye on that. So, as the stock heats, what it does is it cooks the egg, the protein in the egg, and the protein in the. It's really shaking, is that pan? I don't know why. That's strange. It cooks the protein in the egg and in the chicken, so it becomes whiter. So around the outside, you can see that it starts to cook the egg and the chicken. So that's the raft forming, and you can see the bubble just that came up there. Then that's the liquid from underneath. So just look at why it's doing that. That's fine. Just a little bit of a look at it. But the pan's shaking some. There's obviously something on the bottom of the pan wanting to make it shake around a bit. But we'll see how we go. So just slowly keep an eye on it as it comes up to the boil, and then we just might have to put a lid on it just to make sure that the centre is cooked. Things cook from the outside in with pans, so it's hotter on the outside than it is in the absolute centre, and that's where the thickest. Think of ice forming. So ice always forms from the outside of a pond and goes to the inside. So the ice is always thicker on the outside. So it's the same with heat. So the heat's going to penetrate from this out here into the centre like that. So this bit here is always in danger of not cooking. Dangerous when you're dealing with chicken and raw eggs. So you just need to be a little bit careful. So what we might do is we'll bring it to the boil. In the previous video, what I did is I put a lid on it, and therefore made sure that the top of the raft had steamed and therefore cooked all the way through. Just got to be careful with stocks because they are a meat-based stock. Oh, there we go. Bubbles want to come through. You just need to be a little bit careful. You need to be careful with meat-based things because of the bacteria involved that can grow in meat-based things, and are certainly a lot more harmful than the bacteria that grows in vegetables and things like, or grows on vegetables, that type of thing. You get botulism from meat products in like tins and jars and all that kind of stuff from meat products. You don't particularly get that from vegetables. You probably do, but easier to catch it with stocks. Just need to be careful. The majority of stocks, the problems arise when you don't heat up stocks quickly enough or cool them down quickly enough, and the bacteria has time to grow. But anyway, that's a little bit of that lesson. That is my knowledge on food hygiene in stocks. But anyway, so but a good boiling kills everything. But also when you introduce bacteria into things, it changes the flavour and can make stocks taste sour and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so we just need to keep an eye on that. And I'll be doing something else in the background. I was going to do something, I can't remember what though. Oh, I've got that to do. I think I've killed my sourdough starter. I need to make another one just in case. It is starting to form some bubbles. I can see them just wanting to poke through. So we are getting to the stage. don't actually know if this video is going to be interesting to anyone, but it's interesting to me. Might not actually work. I always worry with clarifying stocks. It's quite an old-fashioned thing to do, and I always worry that it's not going to work because I can't understand how it works. I think that's what the problem is. I need to understand why things work. That's certainly from my philosophy on things. I can't just be told something works. I have to know why it works and see that it works and see if there's another way you can do things. Maybe I just don't believe what people say. Give it a bit more weight. Not that I'm impatient or anything. That. Sorry, I'm just doing some washing up. I'm not sorry. I think it's important to do two things at once. Just don't tell anyone I know how to do two things at once. That's okay. Yeah, so there are some bubbles forming. I don't know. Is this interesting? I think from a point of view, is watching stock boil and clarify interesting? I think it's dead easy just to write a recipe and say do this, do this, do this, and do this, and this is what happens. But I think there's a lot of things that can be up to interpretation. So if you actually can see that it's going to take 20 minutes for this to come up to temperature, you know, that gives you some kind of understanding of what's meant when something is a slow boil. You know, bring it slowly up to boil. We're talking 20 minutes. You know, some people might think that's 5 minutes. Some people might just think, well, you can boil a pan of water in 5 minutes, so therefore that's slow boil is 10 minutes. You know, but you know, if you don't know how to do something, it's very difficult. And I always kind of think if you do know how to do something, it's you forget that people don't know how to do it and they haven't got your experience. So you kind of have to remember what it was like the first time you did something and kind of answer the questions that you would have answers to the questions that you would have asked. You know, so I would have asked, well, what do you mean by slow boil? You know, how long are we talking when you talk about slow boil? Right, so as you can see here, probably can't really see, but there is bubbles wanting to come through, which means the raft has formed, and it's certainly getting hot underneath. You can touch it, and it is hot. We just don't want it to boil. If it boils, it's going to boil all the trapped sediment and impurities and fat that are kept within the raft on the top. The egg white raft are going to boil back into the stock, which is not what we want. So we don't want to. We want the fine line between getting it to a temperature that it kills all the bacteria and cooks the raft, but doesn't rapidly boil to waste all the effort that we put into this and by boiling back things in. So it's that fine line of what we're going to do. I mean, I forgot, bacteria starts dying after about 75 degrees. Lots of bacteria die before that, but about 75 degrees is pretty good. 100 degrees, pretty much everything is dead. Well, not everything, but most things are dead. But at 100 degrees, that's going to be a rapid boil, so that's going to boil everything back in. So 80, 85, 90, that's going to be a good enough temperature to cook everything and to kill all the bacteria. So the stock's wanting to push through there and there and there and there and there and I've got hiccups around this outside here. So we're at a good temperature. We'll see it'll start to erupt like a volcano. Starting to form there. That's all cooking. There's parts here and here and here and here where the stock's wanting to push through, where the air bubbles are, which is fine. It can push through a little bit. We're not too bothered about that. We just don't want it to all boil back in on itself. I'm not going to make a video where it boils in on itself. What are we at? 25 minutes. Jesus. Let's have a look at it underneath. Yeah, it looks like it's clear-ish. I don't think it's crystal clear. Yeah, it should be fine. It should be fine. Right, so as soon as it starts pushing through, I'll turn the temperature right down. We'll stick a lid on it. I see there. It's just wanting to push through. That's a good sign, is that? It's going to want to come through there and here. It's starting to crack on top as well, which means that it's hot underneath. That's right, we'll use that lid before it dries. So we'll just make sure it gets to a temperature, and I'll pause it when we actually put the lid on it. See, there is raw chicken. I can still see raw chicken. We need to cook that chicken. We can't have the cooked stock touching raw chicken, because that's certainly going to turn it off. There, it's wanting to push through. So just there, it's wanting to push through like a volcano. So turn the temperature right down, put the lid on. We'll let the top of that, what will happen is that I'll trap the heat in by putting the lid on, and it will cook the top of the raft. So we're not going to get any cross-contamination through raw chicken and cooked stock, and it's not going to turn it off or anything like that. So we'll give that 5 or 10 minutes just to steam the top of the raft. The bottom of the raft to be cooked, the top isn't. So we just need to cook the top. That's why we've got the lid on. And it's wanting to push through. Probably turn it off actually. See if it pushes through. It's wanting to push through there, and it's wanting to push through there as a stock. So we might just give it a little bit more, and then we'll turn it off and let it sit with the lid on for 10 minutes, and then it will steam. Although cooking is lots of set recipes, it's not often set techniques. Like I couldn't tell you how much salt to add to things. It's a personal flavour. It's a personal kind of flavour, and how quickly this stove boils water is completely different to another stove. Same with the oven as well. All thermostats aren't the same. All thermostats aren't the same. Pressure with the gas isn't the same. Quality of the gas isn't the same. If you're using electric over gas or induction, all different types of things. So that's wanting to push through. I don't want to heat that anymore, because it'll start boiling in itself. Right, so what we'll do, yeah, that's it. Right, so turn it off for a minute, leave the lid on, pause the video, we'll leave the lid on for 10 minutes, make sure the top of the raft is cooked, so there's no cross-contamination, and then we'll filter it off and we'll see how it looks. It's had 10 minutes steaming on the top, so we can now have a look at it and see if it has clarified. What I've got here is I've got a bowl with a colander in, and then double layer of an old tea towel. I normally talk about not using like the tea towels. It doesn't matter for this one. I'm not bothered about the bits of raft getting caught in there. So we just need to be careful. I'll get something smaller. Small spoon, and then we can push the raft to one side and we can have a look. Has it worked? Yeah, it's nice and clear. Certainly a lot clearer than it was. So that's fine. So we'll push that raft just to one side. There. And then carefully ladle this. So as you can see, it's a lot clearer. It's certainly a lot clearer than it was. I don't know if you can see that. You can almost see the bottom of the ladle. So that's really clear as that. So I think it'll be. I've got a feeling it's a lot clearer than when I just used the onions. So, but we'll have a look at it when it's. I'll pour it into a container, and we'll have a look at it when it's cold. And maybe compare it to some other stock that I've got. So I think already that the use of the actual chicken and the clarification of the process makes the stock a lot clearer. I don't know why. I was told it's down to the proteins in the egg whites, and that's what clears a stock, and the protein in the meat as well. So I think it might be down to that. We might be able to get away with using more egg in a stock, in a clarification. That might be another thing to do for another time maybe, but I've got so many things that I want to do I forget. So, but as you can see, it's a lovely clear stock, so it works. You just got to be careful when you're pouring it through. There's still a danger that it might become a little bit cloudy. when clarifying stocks, you make them clearer, but you lose flavour as well, because the egg and the onion and the meat will soak up some of the flavour. They'll give a little bit of flavour back, but not as much as they take away. So it's one of those things. You get a clearer stock, but you lose a little bit of flavour. So we'll pour that carefully. Probably shouldn't do this. Probably against all the rules. Yeah, that's why. I can see why the pan was bubbling now. It's just slightly caught on the bottom. But not to worry. Right, so carefully. What we'll do is we'll carefully lift this out of here and let it drain into the pan, and then we'll be able to see that it's stocked a lot clearer than it was. A lot clearer. Cloudiness is gone, so we'll be able to see. That up to there, let that drip drain. As you can see there, certainly a lot clearer than it was. So if we look at that there, you can see the bottom of the spoon, lovely crystal clear. What I'll do is I'll put that in a container, let it go cold, and then we'll have a look at it when it's set, and then we'll compare it to I've made some other stock which I didn't bother, which wasn't particularly clear, but it wasn't particularly cloudy. This was a cloudy bit of stock that we just want to experiment with. So we'll come back when we're comparing the stocks that we've clarified and the one that we haven't clarified. But I'm waffling. I'll stop. We'll be back later. Right. Update on the clarified stocks. So as you can see, you might just be able to kind of see, it's that transparent is the clarified stock. You can see my fingers through the back of or you can see the shadow of my fingers through the stock, and that's a thick container in that one. So that was the one that was clarified. That was the one that I didn't clarify. So that's cloudy, murky. That was not. It's got a bit of sediment in the bottom. That was probably because I squeezed the juice, the excess stock out of the raft. But that's fine. But as you can see, that's how much it clarified. And I did notice that I'd slightly burnt the bottom of the pan, so it's taken on a bit of colour. That's why it's more of a golden colour than that. That would certainly be a lot clearer. If I hadn't have burnt the bottom of the pan when I stirred in the raft, it'd certainly be a lot clearer than that, but it's more of a golden colour. Let's not comment on what kind of golden colour it is, but as you can see, it certainly works, and probably works, having the chicken in it probably works a lot better than having just the onions and the egg whites. But a lot more expensive. You know, it's certainly a wasteful thing, using up chicken to clarify a stock. It's kind of a wasteful thing. And is it worth wasting that money to make something that clearer? I don't think so. I think so if I was going to clarify stocks just for the sake of cutting down on waste, I would just use onions and egg whites rather than chicken as well. It's just a waste. It's, you know, I'm not into food waste. But anyway, an interesting experiment all the same. So there you go. Is there anything else not to say? No. You know, it changes. Clarifying stocks is more aesthetically pleasing thing you can do. Apart from that, probably takes away a little bit of flavour. Will get rid of, like before, one of my stocks was kind of quite greasy, like the fat had boiled into it, and the clarification process took that greasiness away. So from that point of view, improve the flavour, but you lose flavour when you clarify stocks, because the things that you're using to clarify the stocks, the meat and the vegetables and the egg whites, will suck some of that flavour out of the stock. So you tend to lose flavour, but you get clarity. So it's kind of one of those things. It's an aesthetic thing that you're doing. You're not necessarily always going to improve flavour, although you can use it to improve flavour. You can take You can take a bitterness away from a stock, or a greasiness away from a stock, that type of thing. So you can improve it from that point of view, but mostly it's just to get it clear. But there you go, clarifying stocks using proper chicken. Certainly works better, but from a cost point of view, I don't really think it's worth it.